All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely masterful piece of fiction from creator Amon Parker. It's a story that somehow perfectly blends everyday corporate duty with just absolute bone-chilling terror. So get comfortable, maybe turn the lights down a bit, because we are heading deep into the dark, mysterious woods of New Mexico for a tale that is definitely going to keep you on the edge of your seat. Parker kicks off this narrative by pointing out a really profound truth. You know, there's a big difference between that creeping paranoia, just that vague sense that maybe someone's watching you, and the completely paralyzing dread you feel when a nightmare actually takes physical shape right in front of your eyes. And this terrifying realization, that is exactly the journey our protagonist, a young guy named Mehul, is about to take.
Section 1. The Uneasy Assignment.
So, to understand how Mehul ends up in this absolute nightmare, we kind of have to look at his family dynamic first. Mehul is the son of Mr. Mehta, and his dad owns this massive global construction company called Mehta & Sons. Well, Mr. Mehta is worried his son is slacking off, so he essentially forces Mehul to take the lead on a remote renovation project out in the US. But Mehul really isn't ready for that yet. So his beloved cousin, Ratan, who is practically an older brother to him, flies out to the New Mexico site first to get things going. At first, it's totally normal. Ratan gives daily updates, says he hired 3 local workers. Things seem totally fine. But then there are 3 days of just absolute silence. No emails, no calls, nothing. Worried sick, Mehul boards a plane to the US to find out exactly what the heck is going on.
Section 2. A Cursed Forest Cabin.
Mehul takes a car deep into this dense forest, and this place is actually notorious for its dark secrets and paranormal phenomena. Right in the middle of it sits this isolated, eerily quiet wooden house. Just stepping out onto the property, Mehul feels this incredibly heavy silence. He pushes open the front door and actually finds the 3 workers. He introduces himself, tells them Ratan sent him, and they confirm, yeah, they were hired for a 7-day renovation. But then Mehul asks the absolute most crucial question. Where is Ratan? And this is where things get incredibly unsettling. The workers just stare at him in complete silence. They totally ignore the question, look at each other with these blank, vacant expressions, and literally just change the subject.
Section 3. Knocks at the door.
So, night falls. Mehul is sitting down at the dinner table with these 3 super strange men, and the atmosphere is just suffocating. Out of nowhere, one of the workers casually asks Mehul if it's his first time in the forest, kind of hinting that Mehul clearly has no idea what's roaming around outside in the dark. Then, they drop this chilling piece of local history. They tell him that years ago, 10 people died in this very forest. And the most terrifying part? The woods just seemingly swallowed them whole. Their bodies were literally never recovered. They even mention that the owner of the house refuses to ever visit because of wandering spirits. And guys, right as they say that, a distinct knock echoes from the front door.
The way the isolation ramps up here is terrifyingly fast. They're at the table. Then, the first knock. One worker goes outside to check, and he just doesn't come back. When Mehul opens the door to look for him, the guy is just standing totally motionless in the pitch-black yard. He's staring out into the trees and completely refuses to come back inside. Mehul slams the door shut. Then, a second knock, much louder this time. Another worker insists on going out, and exactly like the first guy, he steps outside, turns around, and just stares back at the house, looking completely possessed by something out there. And finally, the third worker just casually walks out the door to join them in the dark. Mehul is now completely, utterly alone, trapped inside.
Section 4. Left, not right. Pure panic sets in now. Mehul realizes his phone has 0 signal on the ground floor. He frantically races up the stairs, looking out the window, and sees those 3 possessed men staring right back up at him. But luckily, he catches a single bar of signal and immediately dials the property owner. The guy answers on the first ring. Mehul is literally screaming for help, but the owner just coldly interrupts him with a direct warning. Go to the basement if you want to stay alive. And then he delivers this chilling command. Go to the left, not the right. And before Mehul can even ask a single follow-up question, the line goes completely dead. Just imagine that for a second. You're in an isolated cabin, surrounded by possessed men, and your only lifeline gives you a cryptic riddle and hangs up.
So Mehul heads down into the basement and is faced with 2 doors. He's wondering why on earth the owner explicitly warned him against the right door. He slowly steps toward it, and immediately, this horrific, repulsive smell just smacks him in the face. The sheer foulness of that rotting odor is enough to drive him back. So, obeying the owner's instruction, he swings open the left door instead,
And inside he finds a flashlight, a crossbow, and maybe, just maybe, a sliver of hope for survival.
But that hope comes with a really horrifying realization. Sitting right next to the crossbow is a handwritten note that just says, "Kill them. Arrows poisoned." This is a massive turning point. He isn't dealing with intangible ghosts or spirits here. Whatever is hunting him out there in the dark is flesh and blood. It can be killed, but that also means it can physically tear him apart.
Section 5. The Shapeshifter Confrontation.
Suddenly, Mehul hears it, heavy footsteps right above him on the ground floor. The threat is inside the house. He creeps out of the basement with the loaded crossbow, waiting in the absolute pitch black of the kitchen. A deep, beastly growl breaks the silence. He clicks his flashlight on, and right there in the beam of light, he sees this towering, terrifying animal. But it's physically morphing. It's shifting its shape right before his eyes into the exact form of one of the missing workers. Operating on pure adrenaline at this point, Mehul raises the crossbow and fires a poisoned arrow straight into it. And as the creature collapses, it morphs back from the worker into this grotesque beast.
Knowing there are definitely more of them outside, Mehul bolts out the door, fleeing straight into the dark woods. It is pure chaos. He trips over a hidden rock, and a second shapeshifter, wearing the face of another worker, charges at him. He manages to shoot it. But remember, there were 3 workers. He backs up against a tree, and suddenly the third creature drops down on him from above, completely shattering his crossbow in the struggle. It becomes a brutal, absolutely desperate fight for survival. Mehul uses loose rocks to bash it, and finally manages to grab a loose, poisoned arrow from his broken weapon and stabs the creature directly through the heart.
Section 6. A Grim Aftermath.
Mehul collapses against a tree. He's battered, bleeding, totally exhausted. Against all odds, it actually seems like he survived. And then, from the shadows of the tree line, he hears footsteps. He looks up, and it's Ratan, his beloved cousin. Ratan looks severely wounded, but he's alive. Mehul is just overwhelmed with relief. "Where were you?" he cries out. Ratan doesn't say a word. He just walks right up and pulls Mehul into a deep hug. Mehul hugs him back, feeling the warmth of his brother figure. But then, Mehul catches it. The smell. That exact same repulsive, rotting odor he smelled coming from the right-hand door down in the basement. In this split second of just tragic clarity, Mehul realizes the horrible truth. This is not Ratan. He pulls a spare, poisoned arrow he had hidden behind his back and drives it straight through the creature's chest, and as it dies, it shapeshifts back into a monster.
With an incredibly heavy heart, Mehul drags himself all the way back to the cabin. He has to know what was actually behind that right-hand door. He forces it open, bracing himself against that overwhelming stench of death. And there, in the pitch black, he finds them. 4 bodies. The rotting corpses of the 3 original construction workers, and his real cousin Ratan. The shapeshifters had killed them days ago and just stole their forms to trap whoever came next.
Mehul ends up calling the local authorities, who bring in this secretive division to completely clear out the monster's bodies. But honestly, what's truly sickening is the aftermath of all this. The authorities interrogate the property owner, and he confesses that his ancestors actually bought the land knowing full well that the shapeshifters claimed whoever entered that forest. He knew exactly what was out there in those woods. He literally tells the authorities, "I knew they would take lives. I just wanted to sell the house." His pure, unadulterated greed led to an entire massacre, sacrificing Ratan and the workers just to make a quick buck.
Mehul's sheer bravery ultimately saved the surrounding towns from these beasts, but the tragic reality is he still had to carry his cousin's body back home in a closed casket. Now, Parker's story here draws really heavily on real folklore from regions like Arizona and New Mexico. Skinwalkers, or shapeshifters, are defined as entities capable of transforming into animals or people, almost always with dark, malevolent intent. And that's what makes this so effective. It grounds Mehul's horrifying fictional ordeal in the very real urban legends that have been whispered around actual campfires for centuries.
A man Parker ends his story by reminding us that yes, while this specific tale is a carefully crafted work of fiction, the lore itself has persisted for generations across the globe. So I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. Are the ancient legends of shapeshifters rooted in a terrifying reality? Did someone, somewhere in history, encounter something so truly horrific that it actually birthed these legends? Thank you for exploring this dark tale with me. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.